In case you're struggling with what you call an obsession, one has to understand that an obsession on its own is a bit more complex than just that. And there's usually more than just one thought or one belief in there. I think I've covered that in the previous video. But when people say they deal with an obsession and they can't get over the obsession, it's not the obsession on its own that they can't get over. It's actually memory. See, in this cosmos, or at least with objects around you, let's look at that in a very simple way. You've got, for example, a sponge. You've got, for example, sponge cake, or you've got, for example, bread, plastic, or some other objects like that, which you press on them, and somehow miraculously, a force beyond your awareness, let's say, simply pushes those things back to their original shape. Yes? Or at least as much as possible. Yes, nobody did implement that on those objects. Not you, not your forefathers, not any of us humans, most likely not any other alien race on this cosmos. But there definitely is something which, in a very miraculous way, pushes and rearranges the forces within the atoms, the molecules within those objects, so that it tends to recover its original, let's put it so, yes, its original position or its original shape. Even paper, if you fold it, if you let it be, it tries to recover its own original shape. Every time a resource is created or something is influenced, there is a certain memory, an imprint that is put on that. So much memory exists within inanimate objects. Well, technically, every object has a life of its own, it's just that it is not of the same complexity in terms of dimensions of existence as the biological bodies that we and even animals have. Yes, animals are sensitive to memory. You will see sometimes animals will live in your house where there is the most memory of you so that they constantly keep you fresh in their memory. Even cats, you'll see if someone dies, they will spend some time, a certain number of hours or days, in a certain place where the person was most active. Sometimes they will simply move as far away as possible. Yes, because they are that sensitive and they want their alone time as well. When it comes to your human body, whatever problem you have that you now identify as an obsession, well, you have been investing in that for a long period of time. See, maybe you have slept in very weird positions like I did, and you ended up with a spine that has some bends here and there, and you're trying to keep your spine as erect as possible. You will see that every time you try, especially if you try it unconsciously, so unconsciously you will also tend to get back to your original location, to your original position, or well, the position that now your physical body identifies as the most appropriate. Because the spine can be bent out of several reasons. There can be occult reasons, there can be curses that can do that, there can be other things, but for, let's say, a mundane human, let's say that there is just this point. You have slept or you have kept your position in bad ways throughout a certain period of your time, and now you realize that your spine lives in very weird situations, positions, yes, and from time to time you remind yourself to realign your spine, especially as you grow old and the cartilages become thicker or more solid, and the bones also may harden, or I don't know how to explain it, but the older you become, it's harder to simply calcification, I think, and also the cartilages are no longer that malleable, I think. I don't know how to put it exactly, but it's harder and harder as age progresses to naturally put your bones back in the original position, for example, for your spine, especially if you pinch some of your vertebrae one against the other and they end up in very weird curved positions like, well, I'm one of the unfortunate cases because of the unfortunate abandonment issues that I've been through and things like that, self-hatred and things. Well, a lot of people can comprehend that because I'm definitely not the only one going through that. Other things may be, for example, self-destructive behaviors. You have invested so much in a certain behavior that now you have convinced your life energies that that is the only way. Yes? So your body is investing its energies and constantly reminding you to do that because you have convinced it to do that. Yes? So you don't have an issue regarding a belief necessarily. You have an issue now regarding a set of beliefs that you have been following, aka what you now identify as your obsession, as well as all the energy that you have invested. So you have created layers upon layers upon layers of getting used to something. That is why, in a very primitive way, people tell you that you need to change your behavior. You need to change whatever you're doing and do it at least 21 days, at least 30 days, so that you create a new habit. A habit is a primitive way through which you can change that, but it is the only way that one can do in terms of a mundane human. There can be practices, spiritual practices, or live life as consciously as possible. Take every action that you can as conscious as possible. Once you become more and more aware of your body, of everything from a conscious perspective, life will feel impossibly hard. Because imagine having to breathe consciously each and every second, each and every time within your life. You have to keep track of your spine and keep it as erect as possible, because this way your energies will flow much better through your body. They will flow with as little friction as possible, therefore creating as little sensations of not belonging, of depression, of things like that. Because you don't have to be sick. Energy simply don't have to be. If energies can't flow straight through your body, certain issues can appear. You'll feel probably extremely tired, but you go to the doctors, you go to everything. There is no source of such tiredness. Maybe you're not even working that much, or probably you're suffering from burnout from, I don't know, years before. Because I assure you, tiredness is not something you deal with it today. The tiredness of years before you will come back sooner or later and bite you in the ass. Yes, you're not going to escape that. You're not going to escape the sleepless nights you've once done. I assure you of that. And I'm speaking out of 9 years of day shifts and night shifts at work. You're a completely different person. So you're fighting, in a way, the memory that you have imprinted in your body. Yes, memory is of so many kinds. A lot of people, for example, may speak to you about haunted houses, but what they perceive there is not a ghost. There is only an imprint, a time imprint, let's say, that remained from the person who lived there. What you may encounter is just energies that they left behind, energies that are so dense that they act as if they would be a ghost, but they're not necessarily a ghost. The person there most likely reincarnated and are in a different body, experiencing a completely different lifelong sense. But many people might think that they are seeing an actual ghost. No, that is a memory of everything that they've done in the utmost of concentration. Because a lot of people end up being so well focused, so very capable of concentrating on the dense emotions, on hatred, on feeling useless, on feeling defenseless and alone and abandoned and things like that. People become very good at this. Now imagine back in the medieval times, people would think only about that for days, weeks, months on end. Yes, because that's how desperate certain situations would have felt. And it's obvious that you might actually even perceive such things. You might actually perceive even visuals through the tip of the eyes. Yes, through the side of your eyes. If you look, you might actually see something feels as if it moves, but there is no ghost in there. It's just imprints of other people's actions, still lost through time as a cycle that goes on and on until it dissipates enough that it can simply burst back into inexistence. So memory is a very tremendous thing. It is a very powerful thing. How you deal with it, conscious action can only help you create better memory to convince your body to do something else. Other than that, spiritual practices maybe, or doing something endlessly again and again, hopefully creating an unconscious habit, and then that habit slowly replaces the new habit Although a habit means a repetition, it is still a kind of bondage. You're still bound to a certain cycle. You're not acting on your own free will. A lot of people are acting on their own whims, on the basis of their own impulses, and they're still thinking, unfortunately, that they are in full control of their life. Yes, everyone wakes up in their own pace. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You're appreciated, take care, enjoy life. This being said, Ferenc Board signing out.